Is your, how do you feel about the sentencing today?
Technically the maximum.
We're very satisfied with the sentencing. Obviously, there's always issues that come about where you want more time. But given the magnitude of the offenses that were discussed and getting the maximum sentence in 3 out of the 4 cases, we're very gratified. And the judge had a total appreciation of the facts that came out at trial. And we know that sentencing reflects his appreciation of what those facts were.
Mr. Wilkerson, for those who are not familiar with the way sentences are carried out, can you explain how many years did he get, and they're being served concurrently? What does that mean, and then when will he be eligible for parole?
Well, that's a very complicated question, but it's a good one. The levels of the offenses, there were 4 different felony level offenses, and they started with things such as a state jail felony with 180 days to 2 years for the attempted indecency by exposure. Well, when you start mixing these things up, clearly the highest magnitude of offenses are going to be the ones that control. The judge addressed them that way, and so for the indecency by exposure by contact, he assessed a 20-year term. Now, sexual performance by a child, that in and of itself is a first-degree felony, but at the same time, it was probably viewed by the court that the magnitude of the offense, while it fit the statute, was not as egregious as some other things. So he set that top end at 20 years as well.
And now, so then to clarify that it won't be consecutive in that it won't be the 20, the 20, the 10, it'll just run concurrently?
The judge has the option to stack or run consecutively. In other words, you would do a 10-year sentence, then you would do a 20-year sentence, then you would do a 20-year sentence. That is out there on sexual offenses of this nature. However, the judge chose, as is his right, to run them concurrently, which means they run at the same time. The practical effect is the 2 20-year terms will control. That will really be what his sentence is.
But he will have an ability to at least apply for parole in 10 years.
That's a pretty controversial issue, and to speak to it is very difficult. The statute actually says that you must serve 50% of that time on aggravated time, and that's what this is. You have to serve at least 50% before you're even eligible for parole. Now, it's we can only control here what we can control here, and that's that 20 years. But as a practical matter, it's our understanding that sexual offenders are serving a lot more of that time, and even when they get out, they're still left with the specter of lifetime sexual registration.
Now, they spoke a lot about, and you did especially for your closing statement, that everyone was focusing on Rojo today, but you wanted to focus on the victims. What would you like to say to the victims today?
I hope that while there's no necessary relief, there's no necessary satisfaction in having to come to court and having to tell about one of the worst days of your life, that you gain some closure. But it's our hope that with justice being served to that extent, that they can take at least some small measure of satisfaction from that.
Now, we know that Attorney Gloria Allred was in town from Los Angeles. Did you know she was coming, and was that something that she coordinated with your office? And how did you feel that her presence may or may not have had an impact today?
I found out about it through voicemail about 10 o'clock this morning. Caught me rather by surprise and off guard. There was no coordination whatsoever. She did come up and introduce herself. She was very gracious. I assume that it has to do with potential civil remedies of the victims' families against both the officer and perhaps the city. I do not know. We didn't go into any detail, certainly at all, in that. That's their choice. And I have to do my job and meet my burden for the people of the state of Texas, as I said, against the peace and dignity of the state, as opposed to civil remedies. So that's up to them, and that's their ball game, and we'll see how that plays out as well.
What happens to Mr. Rojo now? He's been taken to the Howard County Jail, is that correct? And what's the process after that?
If you noticed, he was handcuffed and led out of the courtroom and taken immediately to the law enforcement center. I believe the sheriff has made arrangements to get him transferred to the diagnostic unit of the Texas Criminal Justice Division as soon as possible.
So within the next couple hours, next couple days, is that hard to tell?
That's the sheriff's bailiwick, not mine.
Okay.
But I would guess that he will be out of Howard County Jail by Tuesday.
I did not catch where he will be serving his sentence.
That's the first step is the diagnostic unit. There's 2 of those, one in Huntsville, one in Abilene. I would assume they send them the one in Abilene, and the diagnostic unit is actually the determining factor about where they spend the rest of their time.
And sorry, when will we know that? Or you don't know?
It's normally a 6 weeks, 90-day type process, and once the judgment's signed, it's out of my hands, and the judgment has been signed. So I can't really tell you with any true knowledge what's going to happen to him after this, other than he will not see the light of day.
What's the appeal process if he decides to go down that line? What would be the appeal process to this?
Well, the appellate process is first they file notice of appeal.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't done it. I fully expect that they will.
Mm-hmm.
If they file the notice of appeal and then get the record and so forth. I don't know if they will retain the same lawyer, if they'll get additional counsel. It's an unknown. It's their ball game.
Mm-hmm.
I would fully expect. I'd be surprised if they didn't appeal at this point.
Would it go to Eastland?
Yes.
The Eastland Court? And at this point, you will not have much more to do with it unless there's something in the appeal?
Well, I would almost guarantee you there will be an appeal,
Mm-hmm.
and during the course of that appeal, we will handle the briefing process and so forth, all the way through the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, which is the court of last resort. If it goes further than that, then the Attorney General and the State Advocate become involved.
And just finally, could you just repeat about what it was like seeing him being escorted out of the courtroom today?
It felt like it was over. There was certain finality to it. You know, I do this as a job. This is what I do for a living, and it was the end of a rather arduous process. And when you see him hauled out in handcuffs, there's a certain amount of certain professional satisfaction, but that pales in comparison to what the victims of this thing are going to be going through for the balance of their lives.
Thank you.